So, today's video I consider to be one of the most important episodes of all time, which is related to the question of how do you be your real self? Interesting question. How do you be authentic? Now, if you've been on YouTube for a little while, if you've been on some creative, if you're a YouTube creator yourself, or if you're somewhat of a creative personality, one of the top advice that people give you is that you have to let your art be a true, authentic expression of yourself. Take a look at some of the greatest artists. Their art is not exactly perfect. Their art is on some level a reflection of their authenticity. And the most successful artists, they create art that adhere to their true inner nature, so to speak. So you have these flung of people, you have these guilds of people that start to talk about this advice of you have to be truly authentic. You have to sacrifice anything. You have to pursue who you are on the inside. You have to pursue your true self. There's some problem with that piece of advice. There is a central assumption behind that piece of advice that in this video I'm going to attempt to deconstruct and to sort of provide you people with an alternative. Because if you actually try this piece of advice, truly be your true self, be your authentic self, be everything that your heart is telling you that you should be, what you're going to realize is that it doesn't really work. It doesn't really work. Why doesn't it work? Isn't the best life lived possible? Isn't the life that we're supposed to live, we have to live it through this authentic medium of the self? Well, if you do a little introspection, if you just look deep within yourself for a second, what you're going to realize is that you're more complicated than that. This thing that we call authenticity isn't some tennis ball resided within a part of your body that you're going to find, and now you found it, now it's your job to project it out into the world. It doesn't really work like that. It doesn't really work like that. On one hand, you don't know who you are. On one hand, you can't even locate this tennis ball. You don't even know what this tennis ball looks like, but you think you do. The reason why you're not authentic isn't because there's a hidden tennis ball that you've already got. Now you're somehow afraid to express it out there. But the sole reason why you're not authentic is because you don't know what the heck this tennis ball looks like. Or is it even a tennis ball? Or is it some other ball out there within you? You don't even know what this form of authenticity is. You don't exactly know where to find it exactly. And you're very confused about what's my actual taste? What is my actual hobbies? What do I actually love? What's my true passion? Or what's the subject that I truly enjoy? Or what are some of the things that I truly want to read? Not just following some conventions from society or popular culture, but what is my true taste? The reason why you're not authentic isn't because you're afraid to express your taste. Is on some level because you don't even know if your current taste is your authentic taste. You don't even know this tennis ball that you have in your hand, is this even a tennis ball? You're not even sure the current identity that you have right now, that you may as well be afraid to express. You're not even sure if your identity is your real identity. So you fall into these trends of avoidance. You don't want to take a look at this problem, because you're very afraid that you're going to deconstruct your identity and then start this process from ground zero again. You're not authentic because you haven't found what is the true you. You're not authentic isn't because you're afraid to express it, it's because you have no freaking clue what the heck it is. Okay? That's on one hand. On the other hand, this is an even trickier problem. Goes even deeper. The second reason why you're not authentic is because you don't know which part of yourself that you should trust. So once you start to experience the symptoms of not being able to find this tennis ball, what you're going to realize is that you find this reaction, you get this knee-jerk reaction of having the need to find your true self. Then you start digging a little bit. Then you start to maybe take on the advice of follow what your heart wants. Follow your intuition, follow your passion. But then you run into the problem of, how should I distinguish my personal flaws from the sort of authenticity that I have? How do I distinguish the flawed part of myself with the part of myself that I should actually trust? It's less of a problem of authenticity than it is a problem of self-trust. Which part of myself should I trust, or which part of myself shouldn't I trust? What sort of intuition I should trust, or what sort of other intuition that I probably shouldn't trust? A very good example is if you have the desire to go out and party all night, if you have the desire to, become a total hedonist, how do you distinguish sort of these hidden hedonistic tendencies from your truly higher values, from your higher values for growth, for education, for creative expression? How do you distinguish the two? Because in the heat of the moment, they can seem very similar. There's no exactly one manuscript that you can find in some big books out there, in some self-help books, that can teach you how to distinguish these things. Because as individuals, we're so complex. We don't know who we are. You don't even know who you are. How should you expect other people to write a book about which part of you should trust and which other parts of you that you shouldn't trust? Now, this is sort of bringing back some of the stuff that I talked about in the previous video. Sort of this Freudian perspective on why you shouldn't really trust yourself. Because you're so complex. Within you, there are forces. There are regressive forces, there are progressive forces, there are sort of these ego backlash forces, and there are these self-actualization forces. Because you are a total mess of these conflicting forces, which ones should you really trust? Which ones shouldn't you trust? And that's another reason why some of the young people, including myself, we don't exactly feel that we're that authentic. We can't really trust completely of our inner senses because we don't exactly know how to distinguish which part of ourselves should we trust, or what are some of the other parts of ourselves that we shouldn't trust. So it's a problem of self-trust. How do we relax into who we are, but yet still advance towards a positive direction? How do we know that we just wouldn't fall towards some hedonistic tendencies? How do we know all these forces? How do we know what they represent? So those are the two major things that stop younger people, including myself, from discovering who they are, from discovering a very sort of solid sense of identity, preventing them from truly expressing their creativity, from truly letting the shit out of the door, so to speak, from truly being their authentic self. Contrast those two obstacles with the advice that you get. Just follow your true self. Well, you can't. By necessity, you can't. Because on one hand, you don't know what the heck it is that you're looking for. On the other hand, you're composed out of all these regressive, progressive, all these chaotic forces within you that you're sort of trying to mold yourself into this thing that don't yet exist. How would you expect yourself to be that thing that don't yet exist? And even worse, we're living in a cult of personalities. We're living in a period in which I would consider as somewhat towards the end of the stage orange of spiral dynamics, in which we're still very much brought into this whole notion of celebrity, this whole notion of luxury, this whole notion of wealth, this whole notion of making more money and then getting the best sort of entertainment, getting the best sort of food and luxury, and somehow that represent the pinnacle of life. And somehow the things that were represented or portrayed on TV are the best sort of life there is. We're living in a cult of personality because we are vicariously living out some other people's fantasies. If you like some celebrity, subconsciously you're going to start to alter your taste in accordance with that celebrity. You're going to adhere to that celebrity's worldview. You're going to adhere to that person's speaking patterns. It's really creepy how this works. If you like somebody, your mannerism is going to start to change. How you talk is going to start to change. The social circles are going to start to change. And then basically you're vicariously constructing a semi-identity of not yourself, but an integration of some fragments of yourself and the celebrity that you love. Right? Same with creative pursuits. At the start of a creative journey, the artist always looks out for other stuff out there. He always looks towards other artists for inspirations. So the first couple of artworks, they can be interpreted as vicarious creations. These creations are not at all authentic. These creations are not at all his own creation, but they are intermingled with a lot of stuff from maybe another artist that he respects. It's not at all authentic. And this sort of plays into the previous part that we talked about. We don't know what to look for. We don't know what this authentic thing is just yet. That's why we can't really express it. The best thing that we can do is to find some surrogate out there, find some pseudo identity out there and substitute it as our own. And to sort of emulate other people, hoping that we're going to get the same fame, prestige, wealth from them, just like them. So in the end, we alienate ourselves from our own taste. We deny the journey of discovering what this thing is that we call authenticity. We sort of just let go of this responsibility of ours to truly dig deep into who we are, to spend a little time knowing ourselves, to spend a little time maybe thinking this thing through, and maybe spend a little time acquiring more life experiences. Instead of doing that, instead of trying to outline this tennis ball that we're trying to find within ourselves, we sort of let go of this responsibility to discover ourselves. We shed off this work that we have to do. We sort of just let it off, let someone else do it for us, and now all we have to do is to adhere to a standard. And that really is a false sense of security that we have. Is to rely or to base our values and to base our own purposes in life and to hand it off to some celebrity, to hand it off to some mainstream figures, to live the life that society tells us to live, to have the luxury, the good food, the good comfort, the good sex, the good relationships, to adhere all of our tastes upon the taste of society, without ever realizing or asking ourselves, what the heck is my own taste? What the heck is my own creative expression? How do I move my body in the way that I desire? How do I exactly communicate the way that I desire? How do I assert my voice? How do I find my unique creative style? How exactly do I express myself wholeheartedly and authentically? And that is really a great tragedy. Young people weren't taught how to discover themselves. Young people weren't taught how exactly to relate to their feelings, how to interpret their feelings, but instead they were taught to suppress their feelings and to sort of adhere themselves to this grand narrative that society have painted. And that really is a great tragedy, because I cannot start to explain what of a transformative effect it had on me personally. Have I decided to really go pursue my authenticity, to really spend some time really accumulating life experiences to try to figure this thing out the hardcore way, not to giving to some simple advice of just follow your heart, but actually to distinguish the forces within yourself, to actually find out what this tennis ball is, to actually know what the heck you're dealing with, to actually know thyself. This is a lengthy journey that can take decades. I'm only 4 years into the journey, but the results are already coming in dividendly. It's only getting better and better on a daily basis. So what do we do about this? How do we discover our authenticity, given that we have all these forces around us that are sort of preventing us to look inward, preventing us to truly find out what authenticity is, to find out what our true self is? For this, let's rely upon an analogy from nature, because nature contains some wisdom that we, as a scientifically advanced species, we're too busy breaking everything down. Sort of this good old Cartesian tradition, that this good old reductionism approach to nature, to science, that we missed out on this intricacy of the holistic view of nature. I've been watching a lot of videos on, I think it's Schmitz, or been watching a lot of videos on this insect sting pain index, where they label different insects with different sort of stings and with different sort of venoms, and they rate them on a scale based on the pain that a human being is capable of experiencing from these insects. So basically, it's a ranking of the toxicity of the venom from the insects that can deliver the most form of pain to a human being. Then I start to wonder, do the insects actually care about themselves having this sting? Do these insects somehow care about that, hey, I have this sting, and my sting is better than the other insect's sting. And somehow this is my sting, okay? This is my sting. I take pride in this sting of mine. I'm living this life. I'm proud of this life. These are the values that I'm truly happy with. And then look at that. I bet that guy's inferior to me. That guy's got a smaller sting. Do an insect actually think in those terms? Do an insect actually worry about whether their sting is the best sting in the entire world, or whether the executioner wasp, he's got the biggest sting on the pain index. He's the king of the hierarchy. Do they actually care about that? Or are they simply living as insects? Are these hierarchies simply the projection of the human mind? If you take a closer look, these hierarchies that we've constructed in or on the pain index, on the insect sting pain index, these are just human interpretations. These have no relevancies to the insects themselves. The insects don't give a crap. They do their business. They gather their honey. They build their own little hornet's nests. They take care of their colonies. They're just doing their thing. Whilst the outsiders of the bees, the people that are trying to study the bees, they are the ones that are marveling at the sting that they have, are marveling at their prowess to sting, to deliver the most sort of punch with their sting, are marveling at their bodily structure, marveling at their anatomy of the bees. The actual bees themselves, they don't give a crap. They're just simply doing their thing. They are adhering themselves to their true values. They are adhering to their functions, to their specific life. They are sort of minding their own business. And that is the sort of thing that you have to start to develop. You have to behave like an executioner wasp, having the biggest sting or having the biggest proficiencies without looking around you and sort of worrying about, am I on the top of the hierarchy? Oh, I got this unique sting of mine. It's better than everybody else's sting. Well, that's in a sense a fruitless comparison, so to speak. What you have to aim for is to try your best to adhere yourself to your unique set of values, your unique sense of purpose that you have to slowly discover. It's not discovered through a year, 5 years, 10 years. This is a gradual process. You have to commit yourself to it. And somehow quit the notion of being within a hierarchy and comparing yourself to all these other things out there, and just sort of find this grand narrative of, where do I situate in this hierarchy? Am I living the life that I'm capable of living? Am I living a good life? Instead of doing that, adhere yourself to your specific needs, your specific life's conditions, and your specific desires and inclinations, so to speak. And to sort of steer yourself and to develop your own sense of very unique tastes. And to sort of give yourself the room to discover what my tastes are. How do I manifest these tastes? And how exactly do I discover this taste in the first place without getting trapped with all these cults of personalities, with all these things surrounding us, bogging us down and sort of steering us away from our true nature? How do I do that? So you have to figure that out. You have to be confident enough so that you're not just looking around, do I have the bigger sting? Do I have a better venom index? But instead, you're just living your own life. You're expressing yourself. You know what you want to do. And you have your own unique taste and strategies. You have what you want. You know what you want in the first place. You know what the majors that you're going to choose. And then you completely give up this game of comparison. And that is, in a sense, your commitment to discover your authentic self. Do what you have to do. Read books, gain life experiences, journal, ask yourself difficult questions, and then sort of resist this urge to buy into what's popular, to buy into what's readily available. And then again, this is the Quirky Inquiry, bit of a long episode, but really, really important episode at that. Robin here from the Quirky Inquiry, and I think I shall be signing off right about now.